I present to you Ms. Kirsten Holm.
Thank you for the kind words. My name is, as has been mentioned, Kirsten. I've actually been in the business, I was going to say 37 years, but my bar chef reminded me yesterday, oh, no, it's 38. I was born when you started in the business. Thank you. I've had K-Bar for 17 years, yes, and it has actually made money every year for the 17 years. So I will try and also explain what I did and how I survived. I woke up this morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and suddenly, I forgot to put in nice, pretty pictures of my cocktail bar in the presentation. So it's not going to happen. You'll have to go on my Instagram or Facebook, and you can see all the pictures of my bar. Sorry. Well, so Angus Winchester asked me if I would do some kind of presentation here. And I was thinking all kinds of subjects, and then he said, no, about you and your bar. And I was thinking, what do I say? What do you want to know? What? And then suddenly it struck me, even though I go to master classes, I go to tastings, I go this and that in Copenhagen, it struck me what is different about me and the bar compared to other places. Age, for one thing. I'm middle-aged, I'm gray-haired, wrinkled. I'm old enough to be mother to most of the other bartenders in Copenhagen. I'm a woman. Very, very few women survive this business. Not to mention men, but the statistics for women is awful. And it's also like that, I've looked into it, it's also terrible for chefs, professional sommeliers. Things are happening. There's still very few women that survive this business. And I'll try and tell you what I did later on. So I've also tried to think, how have I survived this business? Because there are a lot of dark patches, a lot of problems in our business. And I'm not going to go into depth about it, but I think you all know what I mean. So I thought it would be interesting to invite and interview a lot of bartenders, professional full-time bartenders in Copenhagen that were either worked for me once or are working full-time professional bartenders. I've interviewed them, I've filmed them, I've edited it. We're going to touch a lot of different subjects. Some of them we won't go into details about. But that's the fascinating thing about our business. There's so many things you can talk about, go into. You can choose your own path. So we will see some of these and responses and attitudes and so on. So listening to all these interviews, it suddenly struck me how much I've been through the same things, the same problems, the same thoughts. I have just forgotten it because I've been so busy for 17 years. I really forgot, how did I start? Where did I start? How long time was I there? So for me, it's been a very interesting process too. So going back to the dark sides of our business, I think we all can see it in social media. There are some people who dare to step forward and draw attention to racism, sexual harassment, sexism, ageism is the new thing I can see, alcoholism, personal crisis, in all variations. I think it's a bit of a taboo in our business. It is in Denmark too. And I think a lot of bartenders, because we're the way we work, a lot of people are hiding these problems, are keeping it to themselves. So for me, as a bar owner and also working behind the bar myself, I think it's very important to pay attention to your staff. Pay attention to yourself. Pull the brake sometimes, feel it. Are you going in the right direction? Are you doing the right things? Are you making the right choices? And I think there's also a problem that many people choose this business and they don't choose it for the right reasons. And we're supposed to see a little clip of interviews.
Because for the first time ever I was in a lack of money, and seeing that zero on the bank account was something that while you're studying, it's like you need to have something.
You have to pay for school. So what you had to do is work at night and learn the trade, because you don't go to school at night, and you make really good money doing what you do.
I started actually by accident or coincidence.
I used to work as a chef, and due to some allergies, I had to find another way of still be creative and still have fun with guests.
Then I was working at McDonald's for practicing, and then I enjoyed the paste.
I applied for a job at Burger King in the Copenhagen airport, but I got a job in a bar.
I was kind of thrown into it, started doing lunches and ended up in a bar and didn't leave.
And it just sort of went on from there. I was always studying at the same time, and then I'd drop out of studying and I'd still have bartending.
And I think as many other bartenders in the world, I chose this by mistake.
By coincidence, actually.
And then I met Kirsten, and she said, "Why don't you work at my place?"
So I started as a runner. I cleared tables in a nightclub, a huge nightclub in a 5-star hotel. I wasn't very good at it because I don't think I understood the concept of hospitality. But, I got absolutely attracted to the tempo. And we went out after work and we hit the nightclubs, and we couldn't afford anything, but we did it, and I had a ball. And I did it while I was studying at university. Money was good too. Damn. So, I loved it, and I threw myself into it, and it was great. I think we all throw ourselves into this business. Could you show the next? Show the next. Yeah.
I have more bad stories than I have good, but still the good ones weigh up for the bad ones. Owners cheating you out of money or promises. Yeah, that's been the biggest issue for me, not working for good people.
Nowadays I see drugs being part of it as well.
Alcoholism, I've seen that happening. Turning into mental illnesses.
So it was a lot of clean the glasses. If you don't clean it, you're an idiot, or throwing the glasses around. You motherfucker, we cannot do it.
The people can be quite rude without thinking about it.
If I'm lucky, I had a 1 day off per week, if I'm lucky.
I missed a lot of family lunches and birthdays.
It's a tough industry, and you work hard, and a lot of places you don't get the recognition that you deserve.
For starters, I find that the tone is quite harsh. If you work behind the bar, you have to be really thick-skinned, and I've seen girls also become insecure with themselves because of that constant fight they have to deal with for security, insecurities, and how you feel about yourself.
We're very good at giving the attaboy to people who show up and seemingly toughen out hardship.
I was pushed to become a general manager and a manager at a restaurant, in like a high-profile restaurant in New York. Then I just got burnt out because, you know, I work so fucking much and I did so much drugs too at the same time to keep yourself up. You know, I got burnt out. Then I went to a sabbatical for a year or two. You know, sabbatical means you go back to your mom's fucking apartment or basement.
And I think to understand which kind of lifestyle is, you have to live it.
A few years back, I actually had a bit of an issue with cocaine after work, and it was very brief, but it was, I don't know, it makes hard work easier if you're doing it whilst you're working. It's easier to be on your toes and jumping about.
Friends come and go, and the ones that stick around are the ones that are probably awake and drinking or partying at the same time as you are. So, but you can't expect your family to come for a beer on a Friday night because you're off work early. But especially in our business, that work, like the casualties, that's family.
Besides that, what bothers me is still how people look at the industry. Still, you heard this many times as well, that people ask you what you do besides standing in the bar.
But there's a lot of people who will constantly remind you saying, I think you have too big of a brain to be bartending.
My father never understood what I was doing. Yeah, he was always like, oh, when are you gonna go back to school? Or he never really said it flat out, but I could see what he was like, yeah, just messing around.
I paid for all this money at school. Why in the fuck are you bartending? You know what I mean? Like, you know, I didn't bring you up to be like, you know.
I think still for a society that around us, they have a hard time understanding that there is an intellectual challenge to the job.
So in that sense, for many years I was fighting with myself whether it was a profession. And when did I actually realize that I loved it? My dad, he said, you have something that I really see that you love. You have a passion for what you do. Yeah. And then I went all in after he kind of gave me that pat on the shoulder.
We, in the last years, decided to use terms and use things that define us as a category. For example, mixologist, liquid chef, and so on. So we always tend to go to other craft to define ours. Yeah. And the problem is this one: if we are not good with ourselves in doing this job, maybe we shouldn't do it. And I think the first people that don't respect this job is us.
Okay. So, while I was studying, as I've said before, I went to all the great parties at university. It was absolutely amazing. I went to work. I joined all those parties. I mean, it was double happiness. Who wants to let go of that? But again, I still think it's important here in life that you pull out the brakes and you ask yourself, which direction are you going? Because I hung on to my university card for way too long. When they were threatening to kick me out, I hurried up and I went to an exam, just one. And then I stretched it out again. I think because of the feeling of lack of recognition from my family, from a lot of people in my surroundings, you can't become a full-time professional bartender. You can't. Are you crazy? And I also think, especially when I was young in Denmark, everything was a bit old school. You didn't have women behind the bar. You had men. Women served tables. Most of the bartenders in Denmark were educated waiters. Like, we have a very established system in Denmark where chefs and waiters have to take an education of 4 to 5 years where they are connected to a restaurant. They also learn a little bit about cocktails, but then you could become a bartender. I was probably the first generation of bartenders who had not taken this education, who just took a training in the bar and just got trained up on the spot. But I did really hang on to the university phenomenon for a long time. And I just enjoyed both sides, both facets of life. But I'm also the generation of, rock and roll, punk, grunge, and the bar business, it screamed, called out my name. I don't know what your excuse is, but I tell you, it was the right thing to do at that time. So we'll take the third film.
There's early warning signs in the way they show up to work. Do they come in smiling? Is that the first face you see, or are they a little bit low on energy, reaching for the third cup of coffee before the hour has passed? It's not hard to see when you know on yourself the effects that stress can have. You will also know that people are different personalities, so you just need to have an understanding of a person's baseline behavior first. They can also get hyper energetic, so that can be just as bad as having low energy. And I think it's just important that you foster a relationship with members of staff where you can actually ask them if they're doing okay.
Not everything can be around the bar, and it has been for me for many years. And then all of a sudden I realized I need to do other stuff.
You have to stop thinking like you're just a bartender behind the bar. You have to extend your consciousness in your existence outside of the bar. That means making sure that when you go out you're always tasting, but you're still a bartender. You go to a restaurant or maybe at home you're doing your own craft beer. You're still a bartender.
So I have always thought it was really, really important to have a life outside the bar. Something that has nothing to do with business. But it took me many, many years before I realized that. So I really went out and I picked up old friendships that I had neglected because they weren't as fun and crazy as the ones in the bar business. I think it's important to get a hobby, be interested in other things than the bar. And whatever you do, whatever you choose to do outside of the bar, you can use in the bar. Your customers are a mixed crowd. They might be interested in polo or water skiing or art or music or whatever. Whatever you go out and do, you can use it in the bar and it will shape your personality. I think that is so vital. I see it in our business that so many bartenders are just only in the bar. They can only talk about the bar, they can only talk about people in the bar or alcohol business. And they're boring in the long run. You want to bring something in, want to bring something else into it. And I think you'll survive much better. I know that circumstances are very, very different in Scandinavia than it is in America or a lot of other places. We are much more spoiled, we're much more privileged all around. But our business is still tough in the old-fashioned way. We still have to work really, really hard, especially as a bar owner. I've worked full-time in the bar, and even more than full-time, for 17 years. It's only recently, at 1st of September, I said, I want to go down to about 30 hours a week. And actually, I think I'm going to go down even more. that's for other reasons, but I think it's about time that I pull back. But I really don't think, for a bar owner, it's difficult to run a bar if you're not there. If you don't put your personality, your opinions, whoever you are, into those rooms where people come. You've got to have your staff serve the way you like to serve people. You want your staff to address your guests the way you would address them, maybe even better. Then you'll be happy. You want them to make cocktails the way you've decided that K-Bar's cocktails should be made. How it should be presented. It's so important that you go in and put you into that bar as an owner. And then everything else will fall into place. Just be true to yourself. I have also suffered from stress in periods, really bad stress. And for the last 3 years, I've been really good, well, somewhat good, at stopping up and saying no to things. I just say, no, I can't, sorry, I'm busy, I'm somewhere else, no. You have got to learn, you can't go out and compensate or substitute or whatever it is if you're feeling something's going wrong. It's really important that you're honest, you address problems immediately, or can go really bad. I mean, I think we could all seen it in our business. There must be a lot of reasons for why are there not more bartenders my age. And I think all this is connected to it. So I think it's just really important. Make a plan, get help. And also be close to your staff, be close to your colleagues. Help them, I think it's important we support each other because it is a tough business. All the time, every day. I think it's important to get a quality of life, basically. I mean, that's what I'm trying to tell you. And make some choices in life. Feel it, think it. And, ask yourself, am I doing the right path? How do I see myself in 5 years? I think it's so important that we keep that frame of mind in our business. Okay, next one.
We're full of people who made our lives the way we want it to be.
So if you think that is a handcraft and you see it as a job, I think it can last how long you want.
When you reach a certain age, you can't do Friday, Saturday party anymore as you did. You have a life outside of the bar, which I find is very necessary to have.
I'm not going to complain about it then, you know what I mean? I'm not going to be negative about it. I fucking chose this path.
I'd like to move on to the side where I'm not necessarily behind the bar as much as I am now, and eventually have my own place.
I was supposed to study medicine, and he told me, now you've chosen the practical way, and I can see that you've chosen the right way. And it kind of gave me that confidence that you don't have to go to university, you don't have to study to find something that you like and that you're good at. Yeah, and then I went all in.
And I just keep having to remind myself of why, like the part that I chose to do instead of the part that I chose to leave behind.
You don't grow up becoming a bartender or a bar owner. You chose this profession,
When I seriously chose to become a full-time professional bartender, I was in connection with a really good job offer, a lot of money, really good circumstances, everything. There was like a weight just left my shoulders, I suddenly felt I grew up. I was suddenly a grown-up. I let go of university, and I've never regretted it. Not I'm saying you should do it, but suddenly I just felt this job can be respectful, can be interesting, it can be exciting. our job can bring us anywhere you want. You can bring it to any level you want. Look at the differences from the top, creative bars to the ones that are just average. You are the one that can make the difference. And if you don't want to, if you just want to tend a normal bar and just everything a little bit, normal, then do that. But we can do it. We can make a difference. We can change our styles. We can change everything. And I think that power is exciting. You can always learn something new. There's new products. There's new everything. You just have to bring it in. And I think really that's so exciting. I can go on and on about it. I won't. And actually, when the job offer that was given to me when I was very young, I've never earned so much money as I did. It was a bartender job in a casino. It was a job I hated when I started it. I was so excited when I started it, and it was terrible. Good money, really good money. Then again, it was the most miserable 3 years of my life. I really, really think to survive in this business, you also have to like the place you're working. You have to like which kind of customers does the bar attract. Do you like these customers? Because you're there so many hours and you're giving so much of yourself. We'll take the next film.
And I think prep's probably the most important thing in the whole evening is getting prepared for war. Something that I learned quite late was knowledge, just overall knowledge of all your stuff. So you're stood in front of 100 bottles. If you know at least 4 things about every single one of those bottles, your night will be so much easier, so much less stressful, and you're more confident because you can counter any question because you've got the knowledge of everything that's behind you. So that's a good advice as well, is really, really, really get to know what you're serving. Take one thing you don't know every day, learn it. At the end of the month, you've got 30 things under your belt.
And I think it's important every time you face a crisis that you have a safe space that you can fall back to reevaluate who you are and what your goals are.
You have these magical evenings where you look at each other and you're supposed to close because you're at closing hours, but you don't want to because the atmosphere is just right.
The essence of bartending is, I think it's, for me it's always back to the word of hospitality and host.
I think the good thing is that you was always happy to go to the job because you met many customers and nice people.
Because it is an old service trade, it's very important to remember that the bartender is not more important than the guest. And that has been forgotten so many times. And it's not many times. Also, that's a phase of when you start becoming a bartender, the menu card of yours is the absolutely most important thing. And it's absolutely not. So there are some things like just to identify what makes people happy and feel comfortable. Because a bar, as I said, is a safe haven out. So that is a place where you need to feel relaxed.
Our guests come from just finished work, have a problem at home, have a problem with their son, girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, whatever. They don't want our problem.
Now, as a bar owner, I think it's really important to make your staff happy in one way or the other. And if you see they're not going the right path, you grab them, take hold of them. It will not benefit you as a bar owner if your staff aren't happy. I hear about people, in Lithuania and America working 6 days a week for many hours. That is not, in the long run, going to be good. It's not going to be good for anything. You're not going to survive. And you can break in all kinds of ways. That's what I think, at least. I have staff that stay with me for years and years. So it's a mutual thing. You give and take all the time. Because you want your staff to do the best. You want them to make you money. You want the bar to be popular. You want all these things, but you also have to support and help your staff. I can't say it enough. Okay, so I think we can go to film number 6.
Most important thing that we have to acknowledge is we are called bartenders because we tend the bar. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of bars in this world, millions of bars. Every guest can choose his own bar, his own illusion, his own little world where I can believe for 1 second that there is somebody that actually is there for me. We are so behind on service to people. And this is the thing that we lack to communicating to the younger industry. Right now, everything that we care about is the cocktail that I make. Cocktails are 10, maximum 15% of your job every day, maximum. All the rest is the atmosphere, the service, the lights, the glasses, everything. And it's very important. It's very important that we go back to what is like the social interaction with your guests and with your colleagues. It's the most important part.
For me, you have to get your priorities right. Working in the bar industry and at my bar, K-Bar, for me, my philosophy is always it's a package deal. From when the guest comes in the door, get the eye contact, and then you get the show going with that person. It's a package deal. And remember your priorities. What is the most important thing for that customer, for the bar? Opening a bar is tough. Finding your DNA. Should it be black and white? Should it be pink? Should it be hipster style? Should it be, this and that? When you find out what you are, which kind of customers you want to attract, what kind of cocktails do you want to serve, what is you, all that will fall in place. But then your next big challenge comes, is making it successful. Are people grabbing your idea? Do they appreciate, your concept? Do they appreciate you as a bar owner? Do they appreciate the staff you've chosen and the way they work? And keeping a cocktail bar going for 17 years is not easy. It is very hard work and keeping you up a few nights. I've listed a lot of pointers to what I think it takes to be a successful bar owner. There's the really, really obvious one. Hard work. I can't say it enough. Bloody hard. Follow the times. Sniff. Look around. What's happening in the city? What are people starting to do? The municipality. What are they doing in your neighborhood? Follow the times. Follow the news. Read a newspaper. I know you don't do it on paper anymore, but be informed. Your customers will appreciate it. And they're mixed. You can, talk about Brexit, or you can talk about Danish Queen, or, scandal somewhere. People will appreciate it. Your customers, your colleagues, everybody will appreciate it. Observe new trends. I don't mean take new trends. No, observe them, feel them. Is that something we should be doing? Is that something we can integrate in our concept? I don't have kombucha, and I have once in a while people say, I like some kombucha. I said, I'm sorry, I don't, we don't have it here. It's a very small bar. I don't have kombucha or koji or anything. But you make choices all the way. What do you want? What suits? What fits in? Be good at social media. I mean, that is, I was not born with a smartphone in my hand like most of you were. But I think social media is fun. I'm probably not very good at it, but it's working for me, and I think it's fun. I invented 2 hashtags that we always use at K-Bar. I'm using It's Personal and New Traditionalism. So I am learning something from you guys, I also think it's 2 expressions that fit K-Bar and fit me, the way we do things. Give a shit, care all the time. Have it in your system, in your DNA, the bar, your staff, your guests. Stamina, stand up, respect yourself, respect your business, and just do it. Be nice. Be nice. I think a lot of people are very temperamental in our business, and we all see it, we all feel it every single day. Don't do it. Be nice. It's as simple as that. And then I have the last thing, and you're probably going to think I'm a little bit cuckoo, but I really recommend, as a bar owner, you find a warrior. You find a warrior that you get into your system every time there's a huge crisis. I have, and this is where you're going to think I'm a little bit cuckoo. I'm thinking of, either using the warrior from the 7 Samurais, the Japanese Akira Kurosawa movies. I love his movies. So I'm thinking of that samurai and the 7 Samurai, or his other movie, Sanjuro, which is another kind of hero, another kind of warrior. And there's a difference between someone calling in sick and you planned your day off and you got to go to work and and then suddenly, if someone cheats you, if your bar is suddenly suffering from water damage, serious things, you have sorrow suddenly, you lost your father or a sibling, you have to go through sorrow. You've got to find that warrior in you. That will make you survive. And it's so different. You just find the warrior and you just go out and do it. You find which warrior suits to your temperament, to your mentality. And it will, I don't know, some people probably say an angel, but I'm not that type. I like to get that warrior going in my stomach when there's a crisis. I don't really have that much more to say. For many years ago at K-Bar, we did a little movie, a little tiny short movie that we're going to show, where I used my father. He was about 91 at the time. I used his voice, and he has a good voice. And I think the movie, it's typical K-Bar, I hope, and it's timeless. I just resaw it. I haven't seen it for a few years. I saw it yesterday. And it's timeless, so yeah.
Most important thing that we have to acknowledge is...
No. Yeah.
In my more than 40 years in diplomacy in the US, Europe, as well as in the Far East, I have learned that prejudgment and stubbornness leads to nothing. I have learned that an open mind and sharp knowledge can mix the most opposite of opinions. I have learned that taking elements away, adding new ones in another context, creates a new result. In negotiations, in cocktails, as well in life. By the way, my name is Kirsten Holm. It is my daughter Kirsten, who is a K in K-Bar. Perhaps it's in the genes.
Right. I can see I have a little bit more time, so I did have a little extra thing. Because I've been thinking, what has changed a lot for 38 years? Yes. What has changed? And what do I think is changing, will change in the future? I think actually I might take that first. In Copenhagen, we are seeing a tendency of hedge funds, big businesses buying up bars and restaurants and venues. They are leaving these businesses to take care of themselves. They're not closing them down, but they're saving a lot of cost. They're having one man, to shop. They have one staff department. They have one this and they have one that. But then they, might have 50 bars and restaurants. That's a tendency we're seeing in Copenhagen. To cut costs in general, and these hedge funds have a lot of money. If they can make 15% of the sales every year, they're happy. So I think people like me, just owning a cocktail bar in Copenhagen, I think we're going to be fewer and fewer. I think I can see the costs are rising tremendously since I opened. The rents, everything has changed dramatically. It's going to be difficult. I also think I can also see that our government is knocking on. We have a lot of Michelin star restaurants in Copenhagen, a lot. We're quite famous for that. And they're knocking on their doors. They're not doing anything dramatic yet, but they're knocking, and they don't like the working hours. And the Michelin star restaurants in Copenhagen, with the salaries we have, they can't survive if not 70% of the staff work for free. They get a lot of workers from abroad. So I think we're going to see a change in demands on working conditions. We have no unemployment in Denmark, so we're going to see salaries already now exploding. Who can afford that in the long run? We'll see. And I also think there will probably, in the future, I also think they're going to look at how many hours a week people are working. So all this is changing, and I think it's going to change the business. I don't know precisely which direction. But the standard of cocktails, the standard of restaurants, cocktail bars has exploded. It's so high, it's so complex. You would roll around and laugh if you saw the cocktails from the 80s in Copenhagen till now. It's such a difference, and that's good, really good. And actually, and then there's a couple of other things I've written up, like sexual harassment. All the women I spoke to in cocktail bars like K-Bar, there's nothing. Times have really changed. Me Too, and I also think because of Scandinavia, we've had governments, really pushing for equal rights, different mentalities. Compared to when I was young in the 80s, you really had to spot, okay, I'm not going to go close to him, I'm going to serve him from the other side so he can't grab, You had to be smart. You don't have to be smart that way today, and that's really nice to see. At least in Scandinavia, it's really changed. Ageism, I see a little bit of that on Facebook. I'm old, but I own a bar. I don't look at people's age if I employ them. But is that happening? I don't know. But I read on Facebook that it's happening in America, so we'll see. And I was also thinking, could it be interesting for some people to speculate in a better standard of education for bartenders? That could be an interesting subject for certain people. But that was my last pointers. Thank you for coming here and listening to me, and I hope I gave you something you could bring home and think about. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Kirsten, for your sharing. If there are any questions, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll pass along the mic to you. And if not, thank you very... Oh, just one moment, coming up.
Thank you. You spoke about the evolution of bar and bartendings, so I'm curious about your opinion. Do you think that that evolution brought maybe more stress and maybe less enjoyment in the bars than like that was in the 80s maybe? I don't know how it was in the 80s, I'm too young, but I just want to know.
Yeah, I think the competition, when it's at a very high level, can be stressful.
Okay, yeah, definitely brought ego problems in our business. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hi, any other questions? We have time for one more.
Hello, Kirsten.
Hello.
It's good to see you again. You mentioned in the last 10 minutes that you think that the independent industry is only going to get harder and harder, and that it's really difficult to compete against the hedge funds now in a growing hospitality market. I'm not looking for any golden bullet solutions, but do you have any ideas what the industry can do to protect people like you? Yeah, because I'm looking for some as well.
Because we're almost competing against them somehow. Carl, don't you agree? I mean, they are sort of breathing down your back. And even though owners who sell out to them do it because the money is big, but I also hear that they're forcing them slowly to change certain things about their concept. So it's not, golden days. And I think maybe that's where we can win. And we're just more charming.
Is there anything that you can think of that we could do to make the economic situation better, so that we wouldn't be so ready to sell out because we need to pay the rent or put food on our table?
Well, I'm tempted to say, maybe we just need a financial crisis to clean out a little bit all the cheap...
Drain the swamp, huh?
No nonsense places. But of course, I don't wish that.
Okay.
But I think it's happening most places. You see these concepts just here in Berlin, where people are open from breakfast to, and then they change the concept. They're doing that because they have to, I presume, because of the rent. It's happening in London, in New York, where you just have to change your concept because you got to get the revenue going. What do you do about that? I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kirsten, everyone. Thank you so much, Kirsten.
Thank you.